Hey Sky fam, it's Girl Rose, and this is a flight attendant hiring alert. Now it is almost 2 a.m. in Bali. I'm 12 hours ahead, and I stopped what I was doing just so I can make sure I gave y'all this hiring alert because Delta Airlines applications are now open. Now, like all flight attendant applications, we never know how long they were going to stay open. Even Delta themselves say they just keep it open for as long as until they have enough applicants to whatever number they have in their minds, and then they close it. That means it could be open for a few hours, a few days, or a few weeks. We never know, but they do open their applications, not as frequently as some other airlines. And so if you see this alert, you need to go ahead and apply right now today because we never know how long it's going to stay open. Here are the minimum requirements that you need to know in order to be applicable. First and foremost, you have to be eligible to work in the United States. Delta does not provide citizenship, visa applications, anything like that. If you want to be able to work for Delta, you have to already be able to work in the US. You must be 21 at the age of application, so you need to have at least a high school diploma or a GED. They do say they prefer applicants with college degrees, that it makes you more competitive. It is not required. The minimum requirement is a high school diploma or a GED, so that is what is needed. Almost everyone that applies basically needs to have a new passport. You have to have at least 30 months of validity left on your passport, which is different from like United. I believe for them you only need to have 18 months. So that means you need to have basically 2.5 years still left on your passport. So if your passport is going to expire in the next 2.5 years, go ahead and put in for your renewal. If you do not have your passport ready and you know this is a career choice that you want to have, go ahead and apply for your passport. It's so needed. The application process can take a few days, a few weeks, a few months. Again, you never know. The actual application process, not even how long it's going to be open. So go ahead and put in your application for your passport, and that should be to you in the longest about a month. And a lot of places you can do a same day appointment, so you can also look up that as well. If you make it to the final hiring phase, which is the face-to-face interview, and you get a CJO, you will have to pass a Department of Transportation drug test. I do not know all of the drugs that are tested in the drug test. Just know you'll have to pass a drug test, okay? There is not a specific height nor weight requirement, but you are expected to be able to lift something that is at least 60 pounds, and you are required to be able to reach a certain point. I believe it's 74 inches you have to be able to reach. When you finally get to the face-to-face in that final phase, you will be tested on this in a way. It's like a simulator. It's basically like closing an overhead bin. As long as you can close that overhead bin, you're good, but there's no specific height nor weight requirement. Similar to that, you'll have to sit in a jump seat and be able to close it and buckle up safely. That's how they kind of test it, but there's no specific height nor weight requirement. Again, if you do make it to that face-to-face and you get your CJO, your contingent job offer, you will have 7 weeks of training in Atlanta, Georgia. So you do have to be prepared for that. They do pay minimum wage, which in the state of Georgia is $7.25, and they also provide accommodations the whole time you're in training. And if you're curious, it is a shared room. You must have the willingness to work any assignment that they give you any day of the week, any hour of the day. They are a 24-hour operation, and you must be willing to work in any of the bases that they have. Now, it'll say Atlanta on there just because that's headquarters. That doesn't necessarily mean that's where you will be based. You'll be able to put your preferred bases while you're in training, but you really do have to be prepared to either commute or move, whichever you find is more applicable to your life to make your base work for you. Now let's talk about perks and benefits of being a Delta Airlines flight attendant. They probably are one of the most prestigious airlines in the US. They are a legacy airline. They're one of the big three. They are very well known around the globe, not just in the US. So they love to say that it's harder to become a flight attendant for Delta than it is to get into Harvard. It is semantics. If you really want to get hired and you've been applying and you've been getting rejected or declined, you've been getting that thanks but no thanks, or this is your first time applying, feel free to book a one-on-one call with me. We can go over your resume, we can prep for your interview and make sure that you are as confident and ready to get that CJO as possible. They do have a 401k that is contributed to the company by 9%, which is a good number. Honestly, most airlines are kind of around that area, but most companies in like corporate America don't contribute to that high of a number. So 9% is actually pretty good if you're thinking about like retirement and just the long haul of being a flight attendant. Now, Delta is the only major US carrier that is not unioned. Their flight attendants are not unioned, and if that's something you care about, then that is something to consider. But basically that means if something were to happen, they can fire at will, and there's no one to really back you. In theory. Now, there might be someone that can possibly help you in the situation that works within the company, but there's not a union to back you. And so that can be a differentiating factor for some people if they decide to go Delta or somewhere else. Obviously, as a flight attendant at any airline, but especially at Delta, you have all of their partners as well that you can fly on at extremely discounted rates or free, so you can travel around the world at basically 10% of the price of what you'd be paying for a normal ticket. Which obviously, as you know, if you're not new here, I take full advantage of. Now, Delta may be one of the most conservative. Honestly, all the legacies are kind of conservative when it comes to their hiring process, and just like the kind of things that they look for, every airline looks for something different. They're like, if you fly on these different carriers, you'll see it. The different flight attendants kind of just have different characteristics that fit each airline, and that might be something that you need to think about in order to pick the best airline for you, or that might also contribute to why you've not been getting hired by the airline you think you want. Now, you do not need to have flight attendant experience in order to be hired at Delta, but you do need to have at least some customer service experience already. That'll definitely make you more competitive as an applicant. Also, flight attendants are one of the highest paid flight attendants in the industry, but again, as I was mentioning with them not being in union, the contract side of it is a little bit different because they don't have a union. So it's a little more gray area than some other airlines are. However, this has kind of worked in their favor. It's kind of like when the flight attendants kind of fight for a union, they kind of get money thrown at them. So take that as you will. Now, because Delta is a global airline, they are a 24-hour operation. You do have to be very comfortable with people from different cultures, different ethnicities, speaking different languages. That's something that they really pride themselves on, is the amount of global networks that they have. And so having that familiarity with people of all shapes, sizes, and colors is very important. You don't have to be able to speak other languages. However, if you do, that is beneficial to you. The application that's open right now is for English speakers, or it'll say language of destination, which is basically the destination is the US kind of in this case, so English is the language that they're looking for. The application process is a bit strenuous, and so the first part of the application is just filling out the application. You want to put your resume in, your most recent up-to-date resume, then you're going to answer a few questions talking about, like, are you authorized to work in the US, highest form of education, things like that. You're going to get that in. Then you have an assessment next. If you make it to the next step, that's what it'll be, an assessment. The best advice I can give with that is answer quickly and strongly. Okay? After that, you're going to have a virtual interview. This will be a prompted virtual where you will answer prompted questions. You won't actually be talking to someone. And then the last step is the actual face-to-face interview. There is many parts to get through. And that's kind of why it's so difficult to get through, because sometimes people make it to the second step or to the third step, but the fourth step is the face-to-face. And that is really what you want to make it to. Even if you make it to the face-to-face, that's a huge achievement. So please be proud of yourself, even if you make it there. But getting to the face-to-face in itself is a whole thing, and it's like a full day interview. Then it is a matter of getting your CJO there. This is a quick update of the requirements. If you have any specific questions, feel free to leave them in the comment section below. I'm gonna go to bed. Let me know if you apply. Good luck to all of you applicants. If these hiring alerts are helpful to you, make sure you like, comment, subscribe, and until next time, bye Sky Fam.